I'm talking to Vince because SummerSlam's coming up. And obviously he's like checking in on me and he's like, are you okay? He's like, why don't you come to the venue? I want to say hi to you. I want to hug you. And I was like, okay. So we drove to the venue. We saw him. Hunter was there. Stephanie was there. And he was like, what do you need from me? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. He's like, well, are you going to be okay like staying back in your house? And I was like, no, I don't think I can go back there. I looked on my ADT cameras and there was reporters
Oh God.
all over my front doorstep. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I'm like, it's okay, I'll figure it out. And Vince is like, no, what do you want to do? Do you need a place to stay? And I'm like, well, I don't know. My dad's coming down tomorrow. I'll try to figure something out. He's like, all right, well, we'll get you a place to stay if you need a place to stay. And again, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it. I guess I could say whatever I want. It's my story. But Vince rented a house for me to stay in a different part of Florida. For my mom came down and stayed with me. Mandy stayed with me a little bit. Mandy's mom came and stayed and hired 24/7
Wow.
armed security.
Wow.
And I mean, like, these guys had guns on their hips.
For how long?
A month.
Wow.
A month. And that's where I went after there, and nobody knows that. But luckily, I got a call from Tampa Police Department a few days later or whatever, and he was granted no bail. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
Whatever. He wasn't allowed to bail out. So then I was safe, but I didn't feel safe. And the next however many months was a whirlwind. I mean, I went and got my right to carry. I was finally moved myself into a high-rise apartment where I thought I'd feel most secure. But
You never stayed in that house again?
No.
Wow.
I rented it out and then ended up selling it a couple years later.
I thought it was important to do this story because obviously, there was a ton of negative news about Vince McMahon. There's a ton of negative stories that former people will tell, and there's nothing wrong with hearing those stories and telling those stories. And we'll let the law do what the law is going to do as it pertains to his current cases. But it's also important that when you're talking about someone like Vince McMahon, that you don't just say, okay, I think he's bad, so I'm going to just give every bad story out there. I'm going to just cover all of those, and everything good, I'm never going to say anything about. Once again, the courts are going to do what the courts are going to do. If he's guilty, they're going to find him guilty. If not, then they won't. But it's not a judgment on any of that. But this is a pretty awesome story and something that, when you talk about a company like the WWE, especially at this point, this major company, the fact that they care to this level about the wrestlers, I think is, and you could just see it when Sonya's talking here, right? The point she's making here is I was stunned by what they did for me during what was probably one of her lowest moments, right? As it pertains to never would have expected anything like this. This comes up, she doesn't know what to do, and yet here's the company she works for. Here's Vince McMahon looking out for her in, the best way imaginable. So I just thought that was important to also put up because, like I said, and we'll see, the negative stories, they should be told. People, they could attack and attack and attack if they feel like they were screwed by him. And I'm sure there were many who were screwed over by him in that sense. And like I said, with the court cases, don't know a whole lot about it. We'll see what happens. But I do think it's important that when you're talking about people, even if you don't think they're good, you should give both sides of the story, the good and the bad. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.